Hello, everybody. I can't believe we're finally here. We're doing the new moon solar eclipse in Aries video. And the new moon solar eclipse, I think it's like at 3:29 a.m. tomorrow, and it's 3:29 p.m. as I'm doing this. Am I wrong? It's around that time, is it not? So 12 hours before the solar eclipse, we're doing the solar eclipse video. Oh, we are finally here, my dears. And we've still got another month of the craziness to go. And let us take a moment, truly, I mean, with the earthquake stuff in Myanmar and Thailand, some of those videos. Anyway, I mean, let's really, in a certain sense, with things like, yeah, we knew it was going to be a crazy time, and it has been a crazy time. And it is, my hope is that for some people, because eclipses can bring in positive occurrences or quantum leaps sometimes in terms of an offer or something happening for some people. So I'm hoping that that is the case for some of us. But the news has been overwhelmingly turbulent. And I think sometimes it's just important to take time for ourselves. Anyway, during turbulent periods like this, whatever that means for you, and however long you can do something to take care of yourself. I want to start by saying we are in the dark of the moon. So for those of you who end up watching this video over the next 12 hours, prior to the new moon solar eclipse, it is Friday for me, Friday afternoon for me, Pacific time. And the new moon solar eclipse is in the early morning of Saturday for me. The dark of the moon, our energy is low, our intuition is low. There's a fatigue. There can often be a depression and an anxiety. And things are flat. And you may not have the energy. It's been an interesting 2 or 3 days for me with regard to energy, where I have been able to get sort of the Mars direct videos done on the membership side. And of course, you know, I did a video yesterday on the general side, on the public side, or day before yesterday. So it's not that work isn't getting done, but what it takes to kind of muster ourselves into action when it's the dark of the moon. There's something nice about it being a Friday, as far as the dark of the moon is concerned. But just know to do what you need to do, but also go with the energy as best you can. And I think you can take care of things if things need to be done. I certainly feel like I want to take care of a few things and get them off my to-do list. But don't expect too much from yourself energetically. Don't over-push energetically. Things can still get done in a relatively calm and quiet and peaceful way. So just, I would say, be in that space. Things are slower. When you're in the dark of the moon, there's often this feeling of really what the body wants to do and what the mind wants to do is sit down and stare into space with a mug of tea or a beverage of choice or whatever it is, and just kind of release the last month. So that's really what's going on. And then the new moon happens and the energy starts to return. Slowly, but the energy returns. The quality of the energy changes with the new moon. And for me, it happens soon after new moon. I don't have to wait days for it. Now, the pace picks up in a few days as the moon gets less and less dark, as the crescent becomes visible. Some people who do intentions with the new moon, some people have a theory you can do it anytime after the new moon. Some people have a theory you can do anytime after new moon, except when the moon is void, of course. Some people say you can do it anytime after new moon when the moon is not void, of course, related to your chart. And I'm not going to get into that, what that means right now. But some people say you should do the intentions when the crescent can be seen. If you are in the intention business, I'm going to let you figure out what that is for you. But for me, after new moon, the wind starts to get behind my sails. And the wave, rather than pulling back and retreating, starts to move towards the shore again. And as you know, next 14 days, we're going to have a full moon in Libra 14 days from now. Now, let me do my housekeeping super quick, because I can feel myself, now that I brought up the full moon in Libra, I can feel myself go from 1st to 6th gear into this video. So super quick, 3 ways to engage with me, free content on this channel. sign-specific content in the membership part of the channel. I am doing those videos for rising signs. Memberships are $6.99 a month. So far, we've got, and membership's only about a month old. So we've got information on the new moon in Pisces, or the Pisces part of the chart, the most important video that I could do for the rest of the year, actually relevant all the way to February 27. We did sign-specific content for the full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo. I've just finished yesterday the sign-specific content for Mars being direct and going over Cancer and Leo all the way to June the 17th of this year. And now I'm doing this video that's general, but after this I'm going to do the sign-specific content for the new moon solar eclipse in Aries, and so on and so forth. I think after I do this, I'm going to do sign-specific content for Neptune in Aries, unless the full moon in Libra takes precedence. Irrespective, it's all rolling. So there's the membership part of the channel that is another layer deeper, where it is videos for your rising sign. You can watch them for your sun, moon, Venus if you want, but mine, I'm doing them for the rising sign. And finally, you can do a reading with me, or request, or we can set up an appointment for a personal reading with me. Information on memberships and my email address where you can reach out to me for readings is in the description box below. As far as readings are concerned, I am till April the 7th offering a 30 to 40 minute single topic question reading for $50 centered around a single topic. And also till the end of April, $100 60 to 75 minute reading on the astrology of March and April, the eclipses and the retrogrades and how they interact with your chart. Okay, now we're done with the housekeeping. Now, we were talking about the Libra full moon, and I said that kickstarted me into the Aries new moon discussion. All right. It is a new moon solar eclipse in Aries. And I'm going to pull up some content here. I need some dates. But more importantly, how do I want to talk about this? A couple of years ago, we had this thing where Jupiter was going over Aries and the North Node eclipses were going over Taurus. And then at some point, the North Node eclipses went into Aries because they go backwards, and Jupiter went into Taurus. It was this kind of exchange of energy so that both the Aries and Taurus parts of the chart that would, under more normal circumstances, be charged up with under one of these transits for a certain amount of time, ended up getting charged up for a really much longer time because both signs were first visited by one expansive transit followed by another expansive transit. The quality of the transit was different. Jupiter and the North Node eclipses impact the houses that they travel in different ways, but there's an expansiveness. So it's kind of it was a fascinating time. I was just like, oh, the attention really still doesn't move out of these two parts of the chart. Something similar is going on with the Aries and the Pisces parts of the chart. Right now, we have a North Node new moon solar eclipse in Aries. And in the shorter term, right now we have the North Node new moon solar eclipse in Aries. We've also got Chiron in Aries. We've got in Pisces, Saturn, the North Node itself, and Neptune. And we've also got now Mercury and Venus retrograde in the Pisces part of the chart. Technically right now, actually, I think Mercury is still, at the time of the eclipse, Mercury is still in the Aries part of the chart. But from a short-term perspective, over the next two months or so, both Mercury and Venus will become direct, and they will come back into the Aries part of the chart in April. Mercury will come back into the Aries part of the chart in the middle of April. Venus will come back into the Aries part of the chart at the end of April. The weight shifts this year and starts to shift this year. This is still very much the year of the Pisces part of the chart because Saturn and Neptune don't leave Pisces completely till February 26. But over the summer, one of the big shifts that happened between Aries and Pisces, the North Node eclipses have started to move more into the Pisces part of the chart. But then over the summer, Neptune moves into Aries at the end of March. And in May, Saturn moves into Aries. So we're at a time where in the short term, there's a kind of a back and forth between Pisces and Aries with Mercury and Venus retrograde. And in the longer term, over the next couple of years, there's a back and forth between Pisces and Aries because Saturn and Neptune are starting their journey to move into Aries, and the North Node eclipses are dipping into the Pisces part of the chart. So we still have this kind of, you can't just say that you're done with either part of the chart by the time we are done with the month of April. This kind of back and forth emphasis between the houses occupied by the Pisces and the Aries part of the chart remains for quite an extended period of time. The North Node eclipses in Pisces remain active all the way to February 27. Saturn in Aries is also going to last all through 26 and 27, I believe. So we're going to have heavy hitters in both parts of the chart for a while. Right now, and for 2025, the primary priority is still on stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart. We're going to give more weight to Saturn escorting Neptune out of Pisces. But right now, we have a new moon solar eclipse in Aries. And the month of Aries starts tomorrow till about April 27th, when the month of Taurus will begin. I define a month as a time period, 28 days, initiated by a new moon. And for me, Aries season begins when either Mercury or Venus or the Sun enters Aries and when the last of these leaves. Sometimes when Mars is close by, I will include him in this as well. Every year, around the same time, Mercury, Venus, the Sun travel through the same parts of the chart. The sequence might be different. Planets may be retrograde, direct, close to the Sun, far from the Sun, but there's a kind of a sequence to it. This year, this sequence has been really intriguing, and the new moon plays an important part in this process. Venus first came into Aries on February the 4th. Venus went retrograde on March the 2nd and did not make it past the first 10-odd degrees of Aries. Mercury came into Aries on March the 3rd. And then on the 15th, Mercury went retrograde, and Mercury did not get much further than the 9th or the 10th degree of Aries. On the 20th of March, not that long ago, the Sun entered Aries. Tomorrow, we have the new moon solar eclipse in Aries at 9 degrees, which takes the action further from the first 9 or 10 degrees of Aries and creates the month to do so. On the 30th, Neptune will enter Aries. Let's just keep going with dates. Mercury goes direct on April 7th, and he's back in Aries on April the 16th. Venus goes direct on April the 13th, and she is back in Aries on April the 30th. On May the 10th, Mercury leaves Aries, and Venus finally leaves Aries to move into Taurus on June the 6th. So Aries season lasts from the beginning of February to the beginning of June, to the June the 6th. And I've been talking continually about this time period till the end of the first week of June as having its own energy. And I've been talking about how right now I'm not even doing monthly overview videos. This, for all intents and purposes, video is a monthly overview for April, and I'll explain why in a second. Because the energy since the beginning of the year till the end of the first week of June is kind of just this big blob where planets are moving back and forth primarily between two parts of the chart, just in this activity. And we have known that March and April are pivotal points. March, the tarot card for March, the Hanged Man. Fascinatingly, as turbulent as it is, we don't get to move completely forward in March. The tarot card for April, as initiated by this new moon solar eclipse is, drumroll, oh, where is this? Hold on. The Death card. Transformation. When death comes a calling, everybody, including that Pope figure right there, which is a little eerie given what our current Pope has been going through, has to comply. So April, for those of you who want to look to the tarot for guidance, is actually the month where the transformation actually occurs. A lot of the energy in March and April is around stabilizing, taking care of past energies in the Pisces part of the chart in order to then move forward in April, but especially in May till the end of the first week of June, to create this new state that we have been trying to create, and the universe has been trying to get us to create since March, April of 2023. So we are in the dark of the moon. The month of Aries is starting. When the new moon occurs, it is a 4-week period of action in the house occupied by the sign where the new moon is occurring to try and bring matters related to that house into alignment with where we want to go. Every year we get in each house typically a 4-week period. Sometimes we might get 2 new moons in a house, a new moon in the very first degree and a new moon in the very last degree, which could make it 8 weeks of time. But we get 4 weeks every month in a year on an annual basis to bring matters of that chart into alignment. A new moon creates a month of action. It doesn't matter if Mercury's there or Venus is there or not there, or Mars is there or not there. It is a period of action. And new moons also bring opportunities or something to respond to or react to. With a new moon, I always say it's subtle but unmistakable. With an eclipse, all bets are off. And the eclipse energy is here, and change is here, and it is upon us. I've been describing some of this change since November, December as understanding that the status quo that we could not put behind us, that we could not get out of, all of a sudden since November 22nd or so, there's been a steady and increasing realization that that status quo simply will not hold. And the new has to be created now. And I'm going to expand on that a little bit more as we go along. So a month of action around bringing the Aries part of the chart into alignment commences with this new moon solar eclipse tomorrow. It is also an eclipse, which means that the nature of the change and the nature of the alignment may well be, it may operate as a new moon and it may operate as a solar eclipse as well. Those could be 2 separate things or it could be together. It's very likely that it's going to be linked together. The other thing that has happened, and this takes me back to the last video that I did, is that on March the 24th, 4 days ago, a Mercury cycle started in Aries that takes us to the end of July. So that is actions, activities, a project, work, activities that are going to continue in the background but are actually important enough that by the time you get to the end of July, you might be able to look back and say, oh, actually, where I achieved the most was in the Aries part of the chart as a result of this Mercury cycle. And if you want more information about the Mercury cycle, just take a look at that video. It's the last general public video that I did 2 days ago or a day ago. I can't remember at this point in time. I'll put a link to it at the end of the 2 links I'm going to put at the end of this video definitely are going to be to Mars being direct, and I'll explain why in a second. Mars is the ruler of this new moon solar eclipse. I'm going through Cancer and Leo, and the Mercury cycle in Aries that I talked about a couple of days ago. That provides this drumbeat, this hum of energy. While we're focused on all sorts of stuff, something is being built in the Aries part of the chart, quietly, firmly, and it almost benefits from not having too much attention be put on it, because the stuff that we put attention on often takes on a certain amount of resistance. Whereas the things that we just like, I'll take care of this, I want to do this, I want to get this done, I want to just, things just happen and they get done. Now, Mercury, the planet of communication. So Mercury and Venus, Venus came into Aries in February, bringing, as she often does, the question, what needs to be done to bring this part of the chart into alignment with what we value, the Aries part of the chart, the house occupied by Aries in your chart. And Venus also starts to bring opportunity, but she didn't get very far because in the beginning of March, she went retrograde. Before I go any further, let's reassess our relationships. Let's reassess our agreements. Let's reassess our resources and how we are using them so that they can become aligned to where it is that we want to go. In March, Mercury, the planet of communication, thinking, communicating, talking, writing, making sense of things, our mind getting involved, our typing and texting and speaking getting involved, internally articulating and externally articulating, came into the sign of Aries and did not get very far until about 10 degrees, and then had to go retrograde, as if to say, I'm not going further. We cannot go further because you're building certain edifices on pillars of sand, and I've got to let you know where it is that you're putting your eggs and whether those eggs are going to hold in that place or not. Which baskets are the right places to invest in, and where it is that you have taken things as far as you can for now, and now I want you to pull back on it. Something like, we've been moving forward assuming a job would work out or something would work out or something would move forward, and the universe is like, or Mercury was like, you don't know all the facts about this, let me give you the facts about this. Let me remove the wool from your eyes about the situation so that you can really determine whether this is something you want to stay in or not, or invest in or not, or decide that this is happening or not. Go back to the drawing board, because some element of your future planning has started to acquire a fantastical, fantasy-based accretion that is not based on reality. And Mercury retrograde is like a truth serum. Let's just reveal the truth and the facts about what's actually going on here. The sun came into Aries, but importantly in March, we did have a retrograde Mercury, a retrograde Venus and Mercury conjunct. This was in the beginning of March. So there has been this sense of opportunity, perhaps things to apply for, things to what could the future hold. And I'm going to have to expand on that even more from an eclipse perspective, but just for the next couple of minutes, let me just give you this narrative. Now, the new moon shows up. March has overwhelmingly been, when it came to March and the new moon in Pisces, I told you, while you are stabilizing and bringing matters into alignment with the Pisces part of the chart so they don't spill over and become a liability and a problem, make sure you're responding to the opportunities that you feel are showing up in the Aries part of the chart. Because even though they're not going to bear fruit and you may not get to work on them all the way till May, just make sure that your hat is still in the ring and that you are availing of those opportunities, with the understanding that things about them may change. Now, with this new moon solar eclipse in Aries, it is 4 weeks of action in the Aries part of your chart. And the action intensifies because after April the 16th, Mercury, the planet of communication and cognition, joins the sun and Chiron. And then, even though the month of Aries ends on April the 27th and the month of Taurus begins, Venus comes into Aries on April the 30th, there till June the 6th. And I love it when Venus is the last of the personal planets to go over a chart, because she comes in and says, let's create the results. Let's bring something into fruition. So the question of how to bring the Aries part of the chart into alignment has somehow been in the picture since the beginning of February. There may have been some thought related to it in March, but March was overwhelmingly focused on the Pisces part of the chart. Now there's more weight being put onto the Aries part of the chart, and it's 4 weeks of action in the Aries part of the chart that intensifies when Mercury direct comes into Aries on April the 16th, and actions take on an even more communication, transactions, agreements, contracts, interviews, auditions, typing, speaking, writing, traveling component. And then Venus comes into Aries direct at the end of April, when a lot of this intense astrology subsides, and spends all of the month of May in Aries going. And during May, Mars, remember this is why I just did the Mars videos, the sign-specific and the general Mars video recently. Mars direct on April the 18th moves into Leo, and from there, from the Leo part of the chart, starts to support the action in the Aries part of the chart through these trines to Neptune first, but more importantly, to Chiron and to Venus when she comes into Aries. It's possible that a lot of this activity is reaching to some sort of culmination by May the 22nd, but with a new moon solar eclipse. With a new moon, we're looking at a 28-day period that has its peak 2 weeks after the new moon, and then it starts to subside for 2 weeks after the new moon. With a new moon solar eclipse, it's either the week before and after the eclipse, or the week before and after, 2 months after the eclipse, May the 29th, and that's what takes us to the end of the first week of June, where you can most feel the eclipse. The new moon solar eclipse occurs when Mercury is retrograde. Those of you who have Mercury retrograde in your birth chart may feel the full potential of this new moon and the solar eclipse while Mercury is retrograde, and you're feeling that much more decisive. Mercury retrograde folks can have a tendency to spend a lot of time processing and deliberating when Mercury is direct. And then when Mercury is retrograde, it's like, all right, I feel in sync with the energies, and here's some decisions, and here's how I'm moving forward, and here's the agenda I'm setting for the next 3 months. That's not how you say it, but that's really what's going on. Mercury direct folks are being asked to take a step back and see how things are showing up and what is being revealed as truthful about various situations, and to go back to the drawing board if they need to while Mercury is retrograde. In addition, things may show up for people who have Mercury retrograde in the birth chart at the time of the new moon solar eclipse. You may also feel like you need to avail of these opportunities, take them, make agreements around them. During Mercury retrograde, in my Mercury retrograde video, I told you sometimes when Mercury is retrograde, if you are realizing the truth about something, Mercury retrograde can also give you a way out of it. So it's like you decided that you were going to take a particular job. You're realizing the real truth about that job, and you realize that it does not have legs. And while Mercury is retrograde, something could show up and say, here's something that you could take that is going to be kind of a lifeboat out of this situation. And you might go, but Mercury is retrograde, should I take it? I would say, if it feels right, take it. Just to understand that chances are that details around it, whatever it is that you're taking, or whatever it is that is being designed, or whatever is being executed, may shift once Mercury is direct, or after April the 7th. So you may be told that there's something else that you can take advantage of, or something else that is coming up that is rescuing you from a particular situation that doesn't have legs, etc. And you might go, okay. And they might say, this is what it is, and this is what it isn't, and blah, 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 blah. And then you're moving forward, and then on April 8th, 9th, 10th, you might hear, actually, this is what it is. And really all that's happened is that the people who've been designing it have had their Mercury's now direct moment and gone, oh, what we were assuming or designing when Mercury was retrograde is actually not right. What we actually need is this. It can feel like is very frustrating. I signed on to something. You told me it was going to be this. You told me this is how much I would be working. You told me this is how much I would be paid. Now you're coming back with something on April the 10th or 11th or 12th or 8th or when after Mercury's direct saying, this is what it is. This is not what I agreed to. I would just say that if it rescues you from a situation, just know that even though the terms will change and you will likely not see a lot of flow from the situation during April, after the new moon in Taurus, and as you head into May and Mercury's moving forward, you will see the flow. You will see it start to bear fruit or results. What I'm trying to say is when you have Mercury direct in your birth chart and you accept something when Mercury is retrograde, not only do the terms change potentially when Mercury goes direct, but for the month that is created with a new moon where Mercury is retrograde, like what we're going to be creating in Aries, things may not develop and flow very much with that particular opportunity. But the flow may begin once a new moon occurs with Mercury direct. What do I mean by this? You accept a project to your dismay and frustration, and because Mercury is just going direct, you may have a kind of a meltdown. The details related to the project you took on change after Mercury goes direct. And it may also be that you don't see any monies. You've submitted your invoices, you've submitted your expense reports, you're doing whatever it is that, you may not see the money start to flow around it until you head into May. Doesn't mean that it's useless or fruitless. It just means you've been given a reality check about something that you were thinking was going to be part of your future. You took something that was a way out of the situation. Details around it changed. And matters especially related to the houses ruled by Mercury in your chart, the houses occupied by Gemini and Virgo, are not going to start to move forward smoothly and with velocity until Mercury is direct and you're in a new moon period, a month created by a new moon when Mercury is direct. Okay? It's very specific, but it's very important with this new moon. I've said this to my Aries rising clients and my Aries rising members. Your new year is starting. The sun, when it enters the first house, starts, and then the new moon kickstarts that new year. But especially if you have Mercury direct in your birth chart, that new year is really not starting energetically until April the 27th. However, things may come up that give you clarity around what is actually going to bear fruit and what is not going to bear fruit. And don't try to keep your wits about you and try not to let that throw you too much. And what's nice is that after April the 16th, you will have a direct Mercury come into Aries till the beginning of May. And then in May, Venus will come in saying, how do we really finish up the work we need to bring the Aries part of the chart to the alignment? In the meantime, there's a Mercury cycle that's also going on in Aries. And Venus can bring opportunities and resolution in the Aries part of the chart. First, we're waiting for Venus to be direct in Pisces on April the 13th and spend time in Pisces, and particularly the last 2 months of April. What we're looking for Venus to do in Pisces is help create some resolutions in the Pisces part of the chart. The turmoil and the change does not subside till the end of April. At the last 2 weeks of April, we have the potential, particularly last week of April, to start to see some resolutions and completions and closure for now to stabilize the Pisces part of the chart. But for a lot of us, particularly those of us who have Mercury direct in our birth charts, it will be May and early June when we will be actually actively engaging with and creating the future state that we have been trying to get to. Now let's talk about this future state. The new moon solar eclipses in Aries have been overwhelmingly, the eclipses in Aries have been overwhelmingly new moon solar eclipses, if not exclusively. I don't think we've had a full moon lunar eclipse in Aries in this particular eclipse, Aries Libra eclipse cycle. The Aries part of the chart since March 23, the house occupied by Aries, has had this sense of expansion. This is where I want to go. This is the carrot at the end of the stick. This is what would enliven me. This is what the future holds. This is where I want to get to that. I want to get to that. I want to get to that. I've been telling you this since 2023. You may have started to move towards something in May, June, July, but August, September, October of 2023, it may have come to a halt, and you're just like, I can't move forward. The Libra eclipses took over saying, you can't move forward. You've got this you need to release first. And all the way to March of 2024, with Jan to Feb 20th maybe being an important window, there was an awareness and focus had to be put on what was holding you back and what needed to be released in order for you to move in the right direction. Then some progress and developments may have happened between April and August, September. Some people may have been able to make some sort of a leap, and some people were still not. It isn't since November of 24 till the end of the first week of June of 25 that we can actually start to move towards what we want, but there's a requirement that we, say it with me, stabilize the energy leaks, end the energy leaks in the Pisces part of the chart in order for us to be able to, and March was about the Pisces part of the chart. April is about the Aries part of the chart. But here is the big news I want to give you related to this eclipse. The new moon solar eclipse in and of itself in Aries is unaspected. Everything I've said till now is true. A month of Aries is being created. Mercury will move into Aries. Venus will come into Aries. Some of this doesn't happen till May. But the aspects that are encoded into the new moon solar eclipse in Aries and even the full moon in Libra 2 weeks from now show Mercury, Neptune, Venus, the North Node, and Saturn within 6 degrees of each other, primarily in the sign of Pisces. At the time of the new moon, Mercury is still retrograde in Aries, but getting ready tomorrow to move back into Pisces. And he's going to conjunct Neptune. Actually, Mercury is going to be moving back. No, he conjuncts Neptune and Pisces. When the full moon occurs on April the 12th, you're going to have Neptune in Aries in the very first degree, but you will have Mercury, the North Node, Saturn, and Venus in Pisces. Again, all within 6 degrees of each other. Between 24 degrees of Pisces and the first degree of Aries, we have got, in various combinations, in various order, depending on Neptune, Mercury, Venus, Saturn, and the North Node. So, is it the month of Aries? Yes. But encoded into this new moon is 5 planets within 6 degrees of each other, 1 in the very first degree of Aries, but 4 of them in Pisces. And that is encoded till April the 27th. Because when a new moon solar eclipse occurs and we're looking at the month created by that new moon solar eclipse, we always look at the aspects that occur at the time of that new moon, and it gives us a sense of what we're going to be focused on for those 28 days. Now, both times, new moon, and therefore for the rest of the month, and at the time of the full moon, Mars in Cancer is trining, sending support to, at the time of the new moon, Saturn in the North Node, So that is going to be there from Cancer to Saturn in the North Node throughout the month of April. And then at the time of the full moon, Mars has moved forward enough in Cancer, he's not yet in Leo, that he's close enough. He's going to move into Leo on April the 18th. And on the 19th, he's going to try Neptune. But he's starting the process of moving towards trining Neptune, although he's still in Cancer at that time. So what you've got is Saturn, Mercury, the North Node, Venus, and Neptune within 6 degrees of each other, and Mars in the last degrees of Cancer between now and April the 18th. These 5 entities are in conversation with each other. They are in conjunction. And it's almost pointless to think about, well, which planet is really in conjunction with whom and talking to whom? They're within 6 degrees of each other. It is a party. And it is a party where it's a little bit like Pisces and Aries are roommates. And at different times, out of the 5 people attending the party, 4 of them are always in the room of Pisces and 1 of them is in the room of Aries. But the one who's in the room of the Aries is kind of like, I just need to go pick up something and I'm still listening to what's going on. He doesn't even get into the room of Aries. You know, he's like just stepping there, grabbing something, or stepping there, or, you know, whatever it is. So it is the month of Aries, but a lot of the resolution that we're seeking in the Pisces part of the chart happens in April, and it gets intense. Remember right now, Venus retrograde and Mercury retrograde, for all intents and purposes. I know when the new moon happens, Mercury retrograde is in Aries, but shortly after the new moon solar eclipse, he's in Pisces, conjuncting Neptune. Venus is moving towards conjuncting the North Node and conjuncting Saturn. Venus is already within spitting distance of conjuncting Saturn. She's going to slow down now because she's going to be going direct on April the 13th. She's going to conjunct Saturn prior to April the 13th when she's retrograde, and then she's going to conjunct Saturn by the end of April when she's direct. The planet of our resources, the planet of our relationships, meeting up with a planet of discipline and responsible behavior and consequence, and taking appropriate action to get the best possible results for ourselves in the part of the chart that he is going through, Saturn. And Saturn is very concerned with bringing a certain amount of stability to a part of the chart, the Pisces part of the chart, that since 2012 has just been in this foggy Neptunian space, reaching some sort of a crisis for some of us, a lot of us, in 2016 and 17, increasing since 14, 15, but in 16, 17, Saturn came in 23 and said, this is a mess and this needs to be sorted out. It's either a mess because you have all these ambitions that are not concretized, let's concretize them, or it's a mess because there's loss and deception and you're playing your cards close to your chest or somebody else's, and Saturn's like, enough. Most of all, it is a mess because with only primarily Neptune present and the South Node and Chiron being there during those crisis years, there was nothing, no power, no ability to meet the requirements established in the Pisces part of the chart with any ability to organize them or meet our obligations or be responsible. And now Saturn's like, I'm here, we're cleaning up the act in the Pisces part of the chart. And March, the new moon in Pisces occurred on February the 27th, was a time, 4 weeks of action to start to help bring the Pisces part of the chart into alignment. And now, especially over the next 2 weeks, that action takes on such urgency so that it can start. It's like, as we head to the full moon in Libra, when we dealt with the month of Pisces from February 27th to March the 29th, I would say 70% of the energy needed to go to the Pisces part of the chart, and maybe 25 to 30% to the Aries part of the chart. During the month of Aries, even though we are having a solar eclipse in Aries, during the month of April, it's 50-50. It may still be that 60 to 70% of the energy, especially for the first 2 weeks of April, is in the Pisces part of the chart, and 40% in the Aries part of the chart. So the opportunities will come. Now, it's a little different if you have Mercury retrograde in your birth chart and if you have Mercury direct. If you have Mercury retrograde in your birth chart, the next few weeks could be until April the 6th, could be very eventful, very decisive, etc. For others, the Aries part of the chart has its action and activity certainly all through May till the end of the first week of June, and even till the end of July to some extent. And some people feel that with any new moon solar eclipse, it's starting up a 6-month period of activity and focus in that part of the chart. But this new moon, just as a new moon, is encoding this massive conjunction between Mercury, Neptune, Venus, Saturn, and the North Node. And the conjunctions continue during April, because even though during the full moon in Libra, you still have these 6 planets close together, but at the time of these 6 planets being close together, Venus is just about getting ready to go direct. And Venus is going to, when she's direct, conjunct Saturn, conjunct the North Node, conjunct Neptune. You know, all these conjunctions will still need to be made over the next last 2 weeks of April into the first week of May. So, yes, March was the month of Pisces, and action needed to be taken in the part of the chart occupied by Pisces. But April is when conversations, events intensify in such a way that action will be needed and can finally lead to some sort of resolution as you head towards the second half of April, when Venus direct can just be like, I'm direct, I'm going over Pisces now. Let's heal, let's heal, let's heal. And then she comes into Aries and goes, now let's heal this and let's concretize whatever it is that we're trying to do here. One more thing I want to say with the North Node eclipses. Whatever it is that you thought you were trying to move towards in 2023 and for much of 2024, with solar eclipses, I will continue to maintain, if you're going to take the leap or the jump, do it in a grounded manner. Or you may find that you've kind of done the fool archetype in the tarot, where you've jumped off the cliff and found that what you went for is kind of setting you up for an adventure that's going to take a lot to sort out. If you're going to do this with the new moon solar eclipse and head towards what you want, just be prepared that there is a leap off a cliff that you are taking, that something that may seem very, very solid and very certain may come with a realization, especially while Mercury is retrograde, that made you go, oh. And some of this energy has been going on since the beginning of 23. I'm going in this direction, I'm heading in this direction, I take off in this direction only to go, oh, hold on a second, this is not quite the leap yet. And then the Libra South Node eclipses showed up to say, no, you've still got to release what you've got to release. Now we have a new moon solar eclipse in Aries with no corresponding Libra eclipse in the second half of the year. The energy is clear, and the new moon solar eclipse in Aries is saying between now and the end of the first week of June, go in the direction that you want to go in, move towards the new. The question you're going to have to be left with, this vision of the new, how is it different from the vision of the new you had in 2023? Because with the new moon solar eclipse, you have to be very careful to not get attached to a particular outcome and to let the North Node solar eclipse work its magic on you until you have that aha moment to go, oh, this is what I'm trying to go after. Sometimes the North Node solar eclipses create an attraction towards an end result, a carrot at the end of the stick, and you think It's the carrot. But it's what comes up and what you realize and recognize as you pursue that carrot that really goes, oh, what I'm really going after is this. And by now, you're going to have a sense of what that new really is. You may even have some reservation around, is it really what I was so keen to go after in 23 and 24? Is it exactly that? It could still have some component of that, but what is it exactly? And you may have a sense, I think it's this, and you're being invited now with this last new moon solar eclipse to go for it. And the condition has always been. And as you head to the Libra full moon 2 weeks from now, you may be reminded of, what is it that I need to release in the Libra part of the chart? What was it with the eclipses that I started to release between the middle of September, October of 23 and March of 24? That's when that door was kicked open. And so how do I need to complete that? And how does this mean that I'm moving forward into the Aries part of the chart now that I have a better understanding of what it is I'm actually going towards or going for? The North Node eclipses point to us taking action and going after opportunities where the North Node solar eclipses are happening. They may not reach the kind of dazzling fruition that they promise, but in that process, you're going to be put in touch with something, and you're going to learn, and you're going to grow, and your development is going to keep occurring by moving in the direction that you feel excited about, symbolized by where the North Node solar eclipse is. There's something you need to move towards in the North Node. You have to lean into the North Node solar eclipses, because that's where the next set of natural development is taking place. Even if it comes with a certain amount of disappointment. Disappointment is always the thing that keeps driving us forward to create something else and something else and something else. The new moon solar eclipse that occurred about a year ago on April the 8th of 2024 conjuncted Chiron, not just to the degree, but to the minute. These new moon solar eclipses carry, this new moon solar eclipse does not. As I said, it's unaspected. What's weird about this new moon solar eclipse is the new moon solar eclipse occurs in Aries, but the party for the first 2 or 3 weeks of April is still in Pisces, in the last few degrees of Pisces. So you can almost be like, is this another new moon in Pisces? Because we've got 5 planets right next to each other, and they're heavy hitters. Saturn, the North Node, Neptune, with a retrograde Venus and Mercury and then a direct Venus and Mercury. If you haven't been convinced by everything that's going on that March was crazy enough and eventful enough, I don't know what to do other than give you that information and say, watch out for April. But April carries a lot of potential for transformation and breakthroughs. Peace is at the end of April. And I hope that some of us get it. The one thing I will say with these resolutions that may come at the end of April, you may just have to understand that some of them may just have a kind of a glass half full, glass half empty look to them. When you are in the process of stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart, and at a point where you're reaching resolution so that the energy leaks are minimized, you may need to figure out how you're going to look at certain resolutions. If they mean that a certain amount of drama can be ended, or the energy leaks are minimized, or there's greater visibility to certain things that have been murky, then you may decide, and it may be wise to say, I can look at the glass half empty, but I can also look at the glass half full and say, all right, now at least there'll be peace and I can move forward and put my energy into the Aries, Taurus, and Gemini parts of the chart, where we've got a new moon solar eclipse occurring, and Uranus in Taurus, and Jupiter in Gemini, and the personal planets, when they move into Taurus, are going to move towards conjuncting Uranus. And of course, when they move into Gemini, they're going to move towards conjuncting Jupiter. If they make it to that, Jupiter is going to move into Jupiter's going to move into Cancer on June the 8th or 9th. But with the new moon solar eclipse in Aries, the new moon is still very loosely in the same part of the chart as Chiron. So this idea of healing and reintegrating and re-empowering yourself in the Aries part of the chart, integrating some part of yourself that was separated from you in childhood or your early teen years, or even in your 20s, through conditioning. What you move towards with this new moon solar eclipse could very much be informed by or have that healing and re-empowerment and that reconnection in a more whole and complete way to matters and themes and energy related to the house occupied by Aries in your chart. That Chiron healing energy may inform how you move forward after March the 29th to the end of the first week of June. Mars is the ruler of this new moon solar eclipse. Mars is in Cancer. Cancer is ruled by the moon. The moon is in Aries. So Mars and the moon are in mutual reception. And these are all the reasons why I did this Mars direct in Cancer and Leo videos just till yesterday. And as I said, I'll put a link to the general description of that, because Mars direct till April the 18th is going to be providing, once again, strong support to this party of planets in the Pisces part of the chart, saying, let's do what we need to from the Cancer part of the chart to support the stabilization. And then after the 18th, Mars moves into Leo, says, all right, let me give my energy from the Leo part of the chart to what you're trying to create that's new and you're moving you forward in the Aries part of the chart. Mars is now trining Saturn in the North Node. There's other thing that I want to tell you. Out of all these aspects, the aspect that we need to definitely kind of tip our hat to that is coming up is that on the 13th of April, Saturn conjuncts the North Node. The North Node going through Pisces has not yet completely made his presence felt because he's in the middle of the North Node's energy, and the North Node eclipses going over Pisces is a different energy than Saturn and Neptune going over Pisces. And right now, Saturn is walking around the sign of Pisces with such a big broom and such a big vacuum cleaner and such a big stick, frankly, that he's overwhelming everybody and everything. After the end of the first week of June, and certainly after April the 13th, especially when the North Node clears Saturn more and more and more, we're going to start to feel the North Node in Pisces energy more and more, exercising that pull. Now, in the new moon in Pisces video that I did, in the general part of the chart, but especially in your rising sign videos in the membership part of the channel, I've talked about what this North Node in Pisces energy means. With Saturn, we're stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart. With the North Node in Pisces, we are having to lean into the Pisces part of the chart for some reason for our development. With Saturn, we're taking care of past issues. With the North Node, we need to lean into the Pisces part of the chart to help create our future. Saturn conjuncting the North Node can mean that if there's something we were meant to lean into, the consequences of our action and how tidy we've been and how boundaried we're being. With Saturn going over the Pisces part of the chart, we are learning and integrating and processing our own lessons and dealing with the consequences of our own inability to show up in the Pisces part of the chart in a disciplined and responsible manner. And some part of that is us taking care to clean up our act. And some part of that is us needing to set boundaries against people who are trying to take something or manipulate something without our knowledge or behind our back in a Neptunian way. The North Node, after conjuncting Neptune and then moving to conjunct Saturn, could bring one of two energies. One, there's something you're supposed to lean into and get from the North Node part of the chart, but it's going to require work, discipline, boundaries. But it may be that what you're trying to get to from North Node perspective is still compromised by the consequences of our actions. Either we have not been able to, where we have not been able to show up in the Pisces part of the chart in a disciplined and responsible way, or the fact that we have started to, and what the consequences of that are with the conjunction with the North Node. It could also be that something about what you're supposed to get, that right now there's just a component of hard work around it, or boundary setting, or showing up responsibly and with discipline in the Pisces part of the chart to take care of obligations and minimize energy leaks, and in a positive aspect to concretize Neptunian ambitions and actually turn them into something solid and fruition, is very much still the order of the day. The North Node and Saturn conjuncting, and Venus is going to conjunct the North Node, and she's going to conjunct Saturn, and then she's going to go direct, and she's going to conjunct Saturn, and then the North Node. Or actually, when she goes direct, this is going to be a longer than an hour video. But hey, there's information here. Sorry, give me a sec. Yeah, Venus conjuncts the North Node on the 20th of April, and then she conjuncts Saturn on the 24th of April. That's nice. I'm glad that Venus gets a chance to conjunct the North Node after the North Node Saturn conjunction has taken place. Till April the 13th, that North Node in Pisces is still kind of tightly bound. There's a sense of responsibility. There's a sense of, I can't move towards what I need to move towards to get in the Pisces part of the chart, because Saturn is holding on. There could be an awareness that something that is meant for you is under threat. There could be a sense that it's being compromised by some long-term agreement. There could be a sense of, you may feel, there's a very heavy sense. All I can tell you is, all the actions you've taken in March go into overdrive in the first 2 weeks of April in the Pisces part of the chart. And setting boundaries and seeing disciplined action through just is going to kind of become operatic in its intensity and its need. And then by the time Venus is direct, and Venus starts to move towards conjuncting the North Node on the 20th. I mean, when I look at the astrology of April, April 2nd, Venus conjuncts the North Node. April 4th, Mars trines Saturn. April 6th, Mercury conjuncts the North Node, and Venus trines Mars. April 7th, Venus conjuncts Saturn, and Mercury is direct. April 8th, Mars trines the North Node. April 11th, Mercury trines Mars. April 12th, Libra full moon, but Venus is direct. April 13th, Saturn conjuncts the North Node. April 15th, Mercury's in Aries, and Mercury conjuncts Neptune. April the 17th, Mars moves into Leo. April the 19th, there's something happening on April 19th I need to tell you. I'll come to that. But Mars trines Neptune. Then Venus conjuncts the North Node. Then Venus conjuncts Saturn. I mean, it's just, all of these are those 5 planets in Pisces, or 4 in Pisces and 1 in Aries, and Mars having their conjunctions and trines for Mars. And somewhere in the middle of this, it's all happening in the month of Aries. So there's a new moon solar eclipse in Aries that carries its own energy, and that's taking us past the 10-degree mark in Aries, saying, let's start to move towards the future, 4 weeks of action around the future. And we're going, what action? What energy? All my energy and action is geared towards the fact that for the 4 weeks of April, but especially the first 3 weeks of April, all the energy is around Mars trining Saturn, the North Node, Venus, Mercury, Neptune, all conjuncting each other. in different permutations and combinations. So transformation, stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart, ending, moving towards creating something new that then can also continue, that process can also continue in May and June in the Aries part of the chart. That is what is going on. It is a month of Aries, but a lot of heavy energy and a lot of energy being demanded still in the Pisces part of the chart. The one other thing that is happening, and that goes exact on the 19th of April, is that Uranus in Taurus trines the South Node in Virgo. And this is encoded into this new moon. Both at the time of the new moon and the full moon, new moon solar eclipse in Aries and the full moon in Libra, you're going to be releasing something or being asked to release something in the Virgo part of the chart that's going to allow you to move in the right direction for you in the Taurus part of the chart. On the Pisces-Virgo axis, you are more likely to be feeling the Virgo South Node eclipses more. The North Node Pisces eclipses and what they stand for might be a little overshadowed or murky or being affected by the Saturn conjunction with the North Node. If you were to say, Avi, what should I do about this? I would just say respect Saturn and show up in a disciplined and responsible way in the Pisces part of the chart. Whether you need to clean up certain things, attend to things with more discipline, concretize Neptunian ambitions, or set boundaries where people are acting in a murky way. Protect what the North Node is trying to get you to move towards. But honor. You can't ignore Saturn. You can't just be like, no, Saturn is kind of holding all this North Node and Pisces energy in check. And it's not a bad thing. I mean, we have a North Node solar eclipse going on in Aries that's going to need our attention. So if we had a very active North Node in Pisces while we have a North Node solar eclipse in Aries occurring around the same time, it'd just be like, where do you want me to lean? The message is clear. You're leaning and creating the future, at least till the end of the first week of June, along the same themes that have been occupying your mind regarding creating the future related to the Aries part of the chart since March, April 23. And you're closing out that eclipse cycle by the end of the first week of June. And there's a Mercury cycle in Aries that takes you to the end of July, that keeps the focus on the Aries part of the chart. That's where the future is. The North Node is clearing Saturn, and by the time you get past the end of the first week of June, the North Node eclipses that will start to take greater precedence will be the Pisces North Node eclipses. At this point in time during April, there's a releasing of things in the Virgo part of the chart. Things you may be attached to, things that have borne fruit. Things that have outlived their value in our lives. And by releasing that, it actually allows you to move in the right direction for you. It may not be the conventional direction, the right path for you in the Taurus part of the chart with Uranus there. I'm not going to regret this video being almost 70 minutes long, because I think that, these are energies that we are managing for all of April. And some of these energies are going to take us all the way to the end of the first week of June and even into July. Some people would argue, March the 29th, April, May, June, July, August, September. Some people may argue that this eclipse is exercising its influence all the way to the end of September. I don't think so. I think after the middle of this year, we're going to really feel the Virgo and Pisces eclipses a lot more. And remember, after September, the Pisces part of the chart is not done, because between September and February, when Saturn is back in Pisces and Neptune is also in Pisces, the focus on stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart is going to be that much stronger and that much more final between September of this year and February of next year. But some activity in the Aries part of the chart keeps churning, especially after February of next year, when Saturn and Neptune both move into Aries. And it's almost like the changes that we're trying to create and what we're trying to get to with these North Node eclipses, we're going to be asked to attend to them in even more serious and dedicated a manner over the summer of this year, but especially after February of next year. That's it, folks. That's where I'm going to leave you. I am going to, today's Friday, so the next video that I'm going to do in the general part of the chart will probably be on Sunday, and it will be the weekly overview for next week. Take it easy and take care of yourselves over the next 12, 13 hours as we head towards that eclipse. Take care of yourselves during this period no matter what, because it's such an intense time. And I am going to actually now start to focus on the rising sign specific videos related to this new moon solar eclipse in Aries. Some of that content has already been being shared, right? With the Pisces new moon and Virgo full moon and the Mars direct video especially, because I've been talking about Mars moving into Leo, supporting the Aries part of the chart. But I need to bring your attention in a much cleaner way just to the new moon solar eclipse in Aries, because not only do we get this 4-week window of action in the Aries part of the chart starting now, that energy remains and almost becomes more intensified in May as we head to the end of the first week of June. If you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so. And when you subscribe, there'll be a bell icon to the right of the subscribe button. If you hover over that, there's a wiggly bell on top. That option, click that and you'll be notified when I do new videos. You can contribute to this channel financially by using the thanks button underneath this video, or there's information on donations in the description box below. You can contribute to this channel for free by liking the video or commenting on the video. If you feel so inclined, likes and comments give the video greater circulation on YouTube. If you find my content useful, feel free to tell others about it and get the words out. Thank you to everybody who has been leaving comments. Thank you to everybody who has joined as a member to check out that part of the offering. I've already done the rest of my homework early on in the video. I will leave you to it. Thank you. And if you feel like you need to keep digesting this, you can always go back and listen to it in bits. You don't have to set aside an hour, just 10 minutes at a time every here and there and all that kind of stuff. Okay, take it easy.